It's now 16 minutes after the hour. It seems that you can't repeat the statistics often enough. Since 1981, more than 25,000 Americans have died of AIDS. By 1991, it is estimated another 150,000 will be dead. Clearly the end of the epidemic not yet in sight. This month is National AIDS Prevention and Awareness Month, and starting tonight, HBO is going to be presenting a one-hour special called AIDS. Everything you and your family need to know, but we're afraid to ask. The program is hosted by the Surgeon General, C. Everett Koop, who joins us this morning from Washington, and with us here in New York is Dr. Robert Wyndham, Assistant Secretary for Health and Human Services, and good morning to the two of you.
Good morning, Charlie.
Dr. Koop, I gather this is not unlike what we did here on the set a few weeks ago, in which we had some students questioning you. I gather you take questions from the public about AIDS, and there are still so many misconceptions. What is the one that you get more than any?
I think the biggest misconception is that people still think that you can pick up AIDS somehow or other by non-sexual casual contact. And I think the thing that bothers most people is the fact that maybe mosquitoes carry the virus. And I would like to assure everybody right now that that is not possible and it is not true.
And how about questions, Dr. Wyndham? What do you get most often? What is it that the public really just doesn't understand?
The understanding that they lack, I believe, is the fear of the children in school. This is one of the current issues of young students that are going to school who have the virus, do not have the disease AIDS, but the fear that other students cannot associate with them. And these children have been discriminated against very much so. And we are concerned about that, and that's why this month of October, our major effort to inform people better.
All right, so Dr. Koop talks about transmission of the disease. You talk about fear for individuals. This is, at my age, this has still been probably the largest public education campaign that I've seen in this country. But it is obviously, Dr. Koop, not getting through.
I think it's getting through better than we think. The difficulty is that we're dealing with a problem where AIDS patients get their disease by behaviors that most people do not engage in and most people do not approve of. That being the case, there is a certain revulsion about the whole thing, and they don't want to know as much as they should, and they tend to deny the things that they hear. And that's why we have to keep on reiterating the message, and that's why it's so important to have something like the HBO thing tonight.
Well, Congressman Studs was here in our first hour. He talked about the fact that, Dr. Koop, you wrote a pamphlet about a year ago that has really all the requisite information in it, ought to be mailed probably to every family in the country, hasn't been. Congressman Studs was saying it should be. Why hasn't the government done that, Dr. Wyndham?
Well, we are distributing it to over 7 or 8 million people now. We have more than that on the list to have the publication printed and sent out. We have other brochures and other printed matter to distribute. So we are doing a lot in the area of the print media.
Well, I've seen Dr. Koop's pamphlet. It's extraordinarily complete.
Right.
Why not send it? Other countries have done that, send information to every family in the country. Why isn't this government doing it?
Well, at this time, Charlie, the question is whether it would be as effective as some people think. We look at the United Kingdom now. They've been reviewing their course of events and think maybe that was not as important as they initially thought it was. So the real question is it really going to be that effective, or is it better to do it in another form of distribution, like through congressional districts, like congressmen are doing this and senators now?
Well, but they're sending it out, getting it to every family.
That's
Dr.
right.
Koop, shouldn't it go to every family in the country?
Well, I think the advantage of the congressional approach is that they send it to areas that have a high prevalence of AIDS, and I think that the people that should be getting it are probably getting it. Dr. Wyndham has told you that about 8 million copies have gone out already, and there are another 20 million waiting to go. So that we're going to hit a large number of the people who should be listening to it.
I was struck. We had another panel in here a couple of weeks ago, health professionals, doctors. Many of them still, despite, Dr. Koop, your talk about how it can be transmitted, they're still concerned about treating AIDS patients. When doctors are concerned about their dealings and contact with AIDS patients, why shouldn't members of the public be?
Well, I don't know why that is. Again, I think that doctors are human beings, and I think they have some of the same feelings of revulsion about this disease that other people do, and I think that they hope that they won't have to deal with these patients themselves. And therefore, when one does come across their path, they're not prepared. The American Medical Association has tried very hard to educate physicians, and I have an editorial appearing in the Journal of the American Medical Association next week, which is really asking physicians to take the lead in facing the issue and representing the problem to the public.
You know, Dr. Wyndham, when so many people in the public say, you know, we're so scared that perhaps the government will say, well, we didn't know in late 1987 just how dangerous this was. And, you know, somebody just said to me, look, in the last 2 weeks, the government has changed its position on cholesterol. We've learned new things about that. Who's to say that the current information about AIDS is correct and that perhaps Dr. Koop is wrong and it can be more easily transmitted than we think? Is that possible? Can that happen?
Anything is possible in that sense, Charlie, but we're giving the facts that we know of today, the most scientific facts and the evidence we have. And like anything, time may disprove those. But we cannot wait for that time. We've got to say what we do know today, and those facts are what we're giving to the people.
Dr. Koop, is that a reassurance to say we say what we know today?
Well, I think it's more than that. You know, there are certain things you know that are not going to happen. Black isn't going to become white and red isn't going to become green. And there can be slight variations in what we say. We know, for example, in the beginning that we had a very fixed idea about what the incubation period was. As time has gone on, we've had to extend that. Now, that's not a major shift. I don't think we're ever going to say, whoops, we made a great mistake, we wish we hadn't told you that. We're going to add a little bit here, take a little bit off there, but the fundamental public health message is not going to change.
All right, Dr. C. Everett Koop, Dr. Robert Wyndham, thank you both for being with us this morning. And the special starts running tonight. I guess they repeated it various times, such as the way of cable, correct, Dr. Koop?
I think it's 3 times this week and maybe more later.
All right, thanks for both of you for being with us.